today. We should get a drum roll. You want to introduce our special guest?
I have a friend that goes back somewhere between 10 and 100 years, named Kevin Brahaney Fortune. And it is an honor, a blessing, to have you here with us, kid, because, you know, I've been around you through ups, downs, overs, and unders. And this man has produced some of the most incredible music, or I think it is. And I think the general populace will enjoy the opportunity to talk to you, to hear about a little bit more of your history. Like, tell people what you do with your music as far as therapy.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
I didn't quite hear what I said either. I think the general public would like to know more about how your music has been used in emotional and physical therapy.
I've always had a parallel career in the healing arts.
Mm-hmm.
And back in 1977, I was asked to play for a group at a place called Continuum Movement Meditation. It was led by Emily Conrad Daoud, and it was all about healing. It was all about healing on a cellular level, and that's when I first really began to be able to experience and understand more about the vibrational aspects of music. Mm-hmm. So there are, of course, all the sounds and melodies and things that everyone's familiar with, but you know, when you're listening to music or even not listening to it and it's just playing in the room, it's having an effect. We're having an experience. We're not the same. It's music to me is about transformation, because as soon as you hear something, you're having a response to it, whether you're conscious of it or not. And so
Yes.
Working with people who were moving very slowly with their eyes closed on micro movements, a whole floor, and I had a quad sound system set up, and I could make sounds on this instrument actually that's behind me that looks like bionic angel wings there. I had a whole laboratory of making sounds and music and seeing what happens on the floor among the people who were there moving. And I also have the ability to perceive, or I say see, I use that term lightly, but perceive energy fields around people. So I could watch the energy trails and hooks and cords and things between people who were moving on the room, and it gave me a language, it gave me an understanding sort of in my own body of what I was feeling while that was going on, and being able to create these sounds at the same time that they're moving really gave me a sense of how that all fits together. And later on I got into channel music, which we can talk about at some point here, but that was really the first time, other than knowing that music affected me since I was born. I had older brothers who were 14 and 11 years older than me, and they were listening to, this was in the 50s, so all of that music that was there, they were bringing those 45s home, and I listened to absolutely everything. So, and also classical music and all kinds of stuff. So I had a sense of how it made me feel, and then seeing people's energy fields, I could tell when something changed, when they would hear a sound. So that's the basic part of it.
Well, all of that makes me wonder. I've been asked how old you are, and officially on the air I've mentioned that you're 19. I know that's not. I know that's not true. How old are you today?
Today I am 69.
That's nice. 69. Sweet.
Well, happy birthday.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Say, Kevin, listen to you talk about feeling the vibration of music. I had this vision of going to a couple of different contests, and one of the contestants was deaf, and so it was like a lip sync contest, right? And they would never win because they were always off on their lip sync because they were deaf. Then someone took this person aside and started working with them. And then, oh my God, it was kind of a year later, whichever, I noticed a distinct difference. Like someone got a hold of them and they started feeling the beat in a whole different way. And their lip sync was like right on. And then in fact, they won the lip sync contest. And like, so how powerful, is that tying together that movement and then being able to see and then being able to allow someone else to see through their movement and hear in that same way. Have you ever worked with deaf clients, Kevin?
No, I haven't actually. I have known people who were, and I had a good friend who was an interpreter. And I used to go with her to different events and things like that, and everybody loved her because she had been an actress. She was very expressive with her hands and her face. You could practically tell what she was saying just by her face, whether you read lips or not. And so she said that while there are some people who, who could sign, Amaslan better than she did, everybody just loved her because she was so much fun to watch. And so there were events like you were talking about. So I was able to witness some of those things, but I didn't personally work with anybody doing that. The only thing that I got close to was a person who approached me because they had tinnitus badly. And they loved listening to music, but there was this frequency going on in their hearing that would interfere with the music coming in. And it would just sound harsh and horrible. So I did some tests. I sent him some frequencies and said which frequency is the one that matches the one in your ear. And so we were able to narrow it down. And then I said, send me all the music that you like to listen to. And I took...
Oh, did we cut out for a minute?
And I notched out that frequency. There's a frequency band. And I sent that back to him, so there was no competing frequency in that range, and he was able to listen to that music again, and he was so happy, practically cried.
Oh, that is so exciting how you can do that. That's actually really phenomenal. I've been hearing a lot about 432 Hertz being the original vibration that like balances the body physical. You've got any other insights on that, 432?
Well, these are called the Solfeggio Frequencies, and there are a number of them that are getting popular. There's 38, there's 936, 96 and 93. I have talked about, I can't verify these things really because I don't know, but these are what are being talked about and have been measured and things like that. So I haven't done my own experiments in terms of experiencing a shift at those frequencies. I just haven't gotten into it that deeply, but I'm looking at doing that because some people have requested music in those frequencies, which is easily done. I can do that. But I can't sort of vouch for it. Personally, like in terms of science, I don't know. Like people have experimented with it, and I'm very open to it. But I haven't done it myself.
You're the tool. You're the canvas. You get to do whatever you want. So it's like it's interesting that you have that openness about your art and your skills. That at 69, you're like, I'm looking for some other avenues to share my talents and skills. I think that's pretty cool, Kevin. Are you going to play us a couple of little tidbits or anything?
I don't really quite have a way of doing that you would get it over the over the system, but at some point we could set that up. Because I would have to do a whole setup to get music into the computer.
I know.
So,
But we
but
did,
I would love to do that at some point.
we did put the Alliance website, of which you're featured, on the Facebook page. And so if people want to go, there's a couple of different links on that. So maybe you could break that down for us. There is like band start. I'm going to say it wrong. So what?
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other one is just directly to
My website.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
people can purchase music.
So if they go to the Bandcamp page, they can listen to things and they can purchase things that are on there. There's a whole, I think there's like 13 different albums and releases and things that people can pick up on. Then there are the things that I did for Hearts of Space Records years ago that is now being handled by Valley Entertainment, and they carry the Hearts of Space Records label. And so those, I think there are six albums that I did, and then there are a whole bunch of compilations that I'm on that they have there. So that would be the other one to check out.
Wasn't there something that you and Kevin did in Japan, William?
Yeah, and he's still available in Japan through IBOK Japan with Yoshihito Ito.
Yoshihito Ito. Say that 20 times.
And
Backwards.
Kevin does some channeling music, and he did individual pieces for people who wanted to have clearer meditation, more honest communication with soul, and he is still available in that kind of music.
We had, as you remember, William, there was a film, a little documentary that came out about Dr. Emoto,
Yeah.
who did a thing called Messages in Water.
Yes.
And I was really moved by that. And one morning I woke up and realized that I am the water. And I called William and I said, I know you're going to do a group over in Japan, and I had an idea of why don't you get some people together and do a meditation, and I will meditate with you at the same time. And then I will go into trance and play whatever, showed up from that. And there is a distinction between channeling and trance channeling. So well, channeling, we all channel. I mean, if you wake up in the morning, you're channeling your spirit. When you go to sleep at night, your spirit is traveling and going wherever, and when you wake up, it's back in the body. So in that sense, you're channeling your higher self spirit. And composers and artists are always channeling their flow of spiritual alignment one way or the other. But trance channeling is something where, at least my experience of it, is that I, with the protections that I have in place, I will allow myself to become a conduit for direct spiritual connection. So it's as William has done with Dr. Peebles, where he goes into trance and looks like he just falls asleep, and then Dr. Peebles comes in very powerfully and has a conversation with someone. Well, what I've done musically was the same thing, only just with music and sounds. When spirit comes through, there's something that we could call a block of knowledge, a block of energy, a block of vibration that comes through. Someone asks a question, and Dr. Peebles or spirit will answer that very directly related to how that question is worded and the vibration of it. But there's a whole huge block of energy that's accessing. But what comes out of that is what is called forth from that vibration. So when I'm doing, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but when I'm doing the music, it's that same block of energy. It just doesn't come through in language. It comes through in a vibration that is translated through the sounds and music and melodies or textures or whatever. I never know what it's going to be. So I go into trance by essentially letting go and falling asleep after having prepared everything, gotten all the sound palette together, which I heard in my meditation. And then Uh, then I kind of wake up and I hit save immediately, you know? And then I leave because I don't want my intellectual mind to get involved in what just happened.
Yes.
So I'll leave and I'll come back sometime later. I said that because intellectual energy and channeling energy are not compatible. They're not the same energy at all. And so I will come back later and I would sort of check in and see if anything more is needed. If it is, then I will go into trance again. If it isn't, then I will turn on the recording and see what's there and literally hear it for the first time. And what's interesting is that it kind of sounds like me because it's coming through my hands and my experience and my, you know, talents and sensitivities, and yet, you know, as a composer, I listen to it and I go, wow, I think I would modulate here, or I would do this or that, but it's not about that at all, and that would only get in the way because at that point, whatever is there has nothing to do with me whatsoever. It means that is the communication that has come through for the being who has requested it, and my job is, at that point, is to just translate it and make sure that everything is clear and comes out, very as clearly as it can. And if I have a question about something, I will do a little meditation and see if this is the right way to go or that the right way to go. But most of the time, it feels pretty organic, you know, of the way that those things come through. So then when I send it to people, they get to have their experience. And another interesting thing that I will add to that is that, you know, I've been talking with William for many, many years and Dr. Peebles, and I have a collection of tapes. You know, I always made a cassette tape, and I have translated, you know, some of them into my iPhone so that I can just go and listen to one, because the thing about spirit communication is that they're not in time. There's no past, future. They're always in the present moment. So when that energy comes through and they're talking to me, you know, if Dr. Peebles is talking to me. So in my mind, this happened in 1980 something, or, you know, whatever it was. And yet I can hear something in a way that I didn't hear it at that moment, at that time, because of where I am now. But that energy feels as fresh as it did when he said it at the first time. So that energy, even though it's a tape that's 20, 30 years old, the spirit energy is still quite active and alive and present. It's still fresh. Even if those words have been said before, when I tune into it, I can feel Dr. Peebles, the Dr. Peebles, you know, collective. I can feel the intent behind the message, and so it's always in the present moment if I allow myself to be in the present moment. So I'm not thinking about the past. I allow myself to have the experience of it in this moment. And so with this channeled music, when people get this music, it's best to listen to it as an energetic event. In other words, that you're not thinking about the melody or trying to identify an instrument or anything like that. You just pay attention to your body, for instance.
Excellent.
You notice your breathing. You see what's happening in my belly right now. I got an interesting feeling on the back of my neck. I got it, you know, and just to even notice that. And at the same time, there's something going on a cellular level that I certainly can't explain that part of it. It's just something that makes that transformative shift for people, to allow them to energize something in their life, something they wish to energize or enliven or break through or move or heal. And so I've got 3 albums worth of that that music. and always, you know, I mention and ask if it's okay to use this music at some point, you know, for an album, even though it's their personal thing. I've noticed that sometimes the things that are the most personal happen to be the most universal. You know, when
I love
somebody
it,
shares
yes.
a really personal story, how many people can relate to that, even if they haven't had that same exact experience? There's a shared belly, I call it, that we have when we're listening to something like that. So this music is kind of like that. So no matter how many times you listen to it, it's always going to be fresh if you remain in the moment and stay open and present.
Such a metaphor for living your life, because your life is a melody. Your life is the music. Your flow is the music. Just kind of saying that. So listening to your process reminds me of like a creative muse, when things come down to be written or to be spoken or to be dressed in a certain way. All of us have that, but we just don't tend to pay attention or nurture that.
True.
Yeah, because we've been entrained to believe that that doesn't matter, and that is the matter. That is the focus. That is the purpose. So it is so important for people to really be their own artists, and you exemplify that, Kevin. And it doesn't. We were talking about that on the way. It doesn't matter if you do it professionally as you do. Everybody has their own inner artist, and they see things through a lens that's kind of crystal clear for them. When you're in the present moment, when you're in the now, and you get out of the intellect and let that heart flow.
And I think that our educational system needs to reflect that.
Yeah.
Some people are
Thank you.
are kinesthetic. Some people are verbal mental. Some people have, the kid in the room who can't sit still should be moving.
Should be moving.
They should be. They should be moving. They should get involved in dance. They should be in the back of the room dancing while the teacher is teaching. There's
That's wonderful.
to be able to honor how people are able to process information. I know William used to get very angry at me sometimes during our sessions because he'd be saying something and I'm now like watching the movie of what he's saying. I'm seeing this whole visual thing, and all of a sudden he'd shout, "Are you listening to me?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just watching the movie." Oh, okay.
I'm listening in my way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole, because usually the things that William is saying in his session are just, they're powerful. I mean, they're really, they would affect me. I mean, I could just listen to William talk, when he's tuned in that way, even before Dr. Peebles comes through, because there's just it's so rich that I'm processing it on a number of different levels. And he's just looking at this guy over here with his eyes glazing over and thinking, "Where did you go?"
Yeah.
But all of it went in, William. Just want to let you know.
Oh, I know. I've known. You didn't mention, but you've done a lot of channeling of Dr. Peebles yourself
Yes, I have.
for many years.
Which is, it's an interesting, certainly an interesting process, as you know. I can talk about, it's just that, I mean, he's a very powerful presence. It took a while for me to not pay attention. That was the hardest thing for me, because when William comes through my body and words are coming out of my mouth, I think I'm supposed to hear it. I think I'm supposed to listen to it, and it was quite a discipline, and still is, to just walk away in a way, to just walk into another room, get involved in something else. On in the background in my mind and like that, and I've gone in and out of that practice, depending upon what's going on. William and I have talked about this, that after having general anesthesia, in the hospital for something, well, it takes a while to open that up again.
Yeah.
I mean, those drugs are really powerful. I asked an anesthesiologist once, "What is it that makes us go to sleep?" And he said, "We don't know."
You're right.
They don't know. And he said, if anybody tells you that they do know, they're wrong. He said, because we actually don't know. We just know that this drug makes you do this, it makes you go to sleep, but they don't know how it works. But I can tell you that after those experiences, it takes a while to be able to channel again, and at that level.
I do understand. My recovery after that year plus in the hospital, it took a long time to get back
Yeah.
into really functionability on this level.
Mhm. And that's saying something, because you're one of the strongest channels I know,
Thank you.
strongest chance channels. And, it's interesting, the effect that it has on the body. I haven't done like a whole day of channeling like you have, William, that you would do practically every day. But every once in a while, when I would channel, I would wind up feeling so much better than when I started. There's, that can happen too, where I'm being given a gift as I'm giving the gift of channeling.
It's giving and receiving, yes.
Yeah, that's a lovely experience.
And I like how you mentioned earlier about channeling your higher self. I totally am in congruence with that. Channeling Dr. Peebles is definitely something that William is adept at, and you are as well. I'm just saying that when you mention channeling your higher self, like, that really is a direct revelation that all of us need to be able to utilize in our lives.
Yeah. I've had 2 near-death experiences, and the first near-death experience that I had, just briefly, that I had left my body, and I was, above it, in a manner of speaking, and they're working on my body down below. And what was interesting is that I felt like I could put my hand through that body. That body did not feel substantial, but the perspective I was coming from felt substantial. But that just felt like a dream down there from that perspective. And the other thing that happened, the second time it happened, was, years later, 18 years later, something like that. I had I'm not sure what was going on, but I was leaving my body. I was not breathing. I was just, something happened. Everything locked up. I couldn't breathe, and I was just fading. And I felt myself lifting back up out of my body, and I said, "Stop." Because I was partway out of the body, and I'm looking down at the top of my head, which was getting a little tiny bald spot at the time. I was looking at that and going, "Wow, look at that." And I did that because I wanted to feel everything. I wanted to know what was happening and experienced everything that the body was going through. But I also wanted to experience not being a body at the same time. So being halfway out, to make a long story short, one of the gifts that I got from that was realizing that, in reference to my comment about channeling ourselves every day, is that we have this spirit that's focused in this pinpoint of physical existence, that we've made an agreement to be with this body. It's literally like a marriage. We've agreed to this. We are present in this body, and this body has grown up and evolved and had its traumas and histories and pleasures and joys and triumphs and all of that sort of stuff. But the spirit is eternal, and it's been there this whole time. So the sensation that I had, if I want to call it that, was, here's this body who's really struggling and in pain, and there was this part of me who was watching this, observing this, going, "Oh, sweetheart, you're having a hard time. What can we do for you?" It was like this completely benevolent, non-judgmental, peaceful place that my higher self was coming from for this Kevin personality that was having a rough go here. So that just really clued me into the relationship of the spirit that we carry in the body, that comes in every morning, and we get up and we can feel however we feel. We can feel like shit. We can feel like, great, let's get into it. Any number of things. And we can wake up into a body that's in pain and, struggling, or a body that's eager to get up and do some yoga and get out there. There's just any number of things, but the spirit is consistent. It's eternal. It just comes in, and it's our ability to open to it and to be in the present moment. And it's a kind of a mindfulness practice to be aware that we are the spirit that's in this body.
Yes.
And whether you're conscious of it or not, that's still the deal.
Yeah.
That's just the way that one works. So I love that.
And we signed on for it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that idea of allowing. That's where a lot of us are at now. There's so much magic and miracles in our daily wakings. We just have to allow that.
Well, I can certainly speak to a lifetime of being resistant.
That could be like a whole nother show topic for for many lifetimes, isn't it? But isn't that amazing how you catch it,
Yeah.
and you don't have to catch everything? You just have to catch the major things that are holding up that three-legged tripod.
Years ago, there was someone else who channeled Dr. Peebles. Who I met Dr. Peebles through someone else, two other people before I met William.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking, Pleistocene era, and there was a mutual friend who, in fact, knew my birthday was coming up, and she wanted to give me something, and she just happened to ask Dr. Peebles what to give me. So he told her to get one of those. It was popular at the time. It was like a foam core map of the constellations and the stars and all of that stuff, and it had glow in the dark stars on it. So
Glow in the dark,
you light it
I
up and put it up at night. And she said, give that to him and tell him to put it over his bed at night, and every one of those dots to focus on a lifetime he's had there.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And I went, okay, old soul.
Yeah.
And I love that the Dr. Peebles. Was that you? I don't know if it was you or Thomas who was channeling Dr. Peebles at a crystal convention in Santa Monica many years ago, and all the New Age glitterati were there with all of their.
I love it, New Age glitterati.
All their.
New Age
all
glitterati.
their crystals and rhinestones and
all the woo-wah. All the woo-wah.
Yeah, and tiaras. I mean, it was a very funny looking thing. And Dr. Peebles said, "How many people in here feel that they are an old soul?" And all these hands go up, and he said, "Do you know what an old soul is? A slow learner."
I love that one. Yeah.
That's good. I love that.
And the hands kind of like, "Oh, okay."
Took the zazzle out of that. That's a good one. Yeah.
We've had some interesting events,
Oh my God.
and there's more to come.
Yes, we have.
I'm really curious about the little metal wings behind you. Are you going to give us a little?
Yes, my
Tutorial
little
on
metal
that?
bionic wings. That is the instrument I call the Mighty Surge.
Oh, look at that.
It's the instrument that I was playing. I built that. I built all of that in 1977. It is a modular analog synthesizer.
Okay.
It means that, I don't know if you can see the patch cords and things, that in order to get sounds, you have to patch things together.
It looks like a
to-
huge calendar. A little bit like
Kinda
numbers,
is.
maybe. I don't know.
So where's October? And it is an electronic instrument, and a lot of the music that I've made has been made on this instrument, and it's a very versatile and pretty powerful instrument. And that was what I was playing when I was watching people moving slowly with their eyes closed and all kinds of things like that. So it has all the lights that let me know what things are doing, and so it's been around since 1977. The Way Home, Paralander was done on it. Lullaby for the Hearts of Space album was done on it. That was a live album I did on the radio in 1980.
Like just spontaneous, really?
Mhm. Yeah, it's there was Stephen Hill and then Anna Turner had a show called Music from the Hearts of Space, and it was on KPFA in Berkeley on, I think, Sunday nights, Saturday or Sunday nights, and it was like almost an all-night show. It was a late-night show, and Stephen was playing, music, space music, we were calling it then. But, meditative music and all that stuff. It was before New Age was even coined. So he'd been playing this music, and one day he was doing a fundraiser show for NPR and the station, and was hosting a day long of people coming into the studio and playing live. And I had come up from Continuum. This was in 1980. I was still playing there, and I came up from there and set everything up. And Continuum was a beautiful place. It was a beautiful room with a parquet floor and quad sound system and plants and things like that. It was a lovely room to create in, high ceiling. And I get into the studio, and it was kind of like the Warsaw Ghetto in there. I mean, it was like the equivalent of a bare bulb hanging in the room, and all this gray, stuff. And studios back then always smelled like old cigarette smoke and stuff. Then I got there in the morning, and I was trying to patch something up, and nothing was coming. It just wasn't. I couldn't get it. And I had 30 minutes to go before I was to play. And Stephen wanted a kind of lullaby. He wanted me to be the last act and to usher in Day's End sort of thing. And I pulled all the patch cords out, and I was in there patching while another wonderful musician named Jordan De La Sierra was in playing the piano, which was about 10 feet away from me. And so I'm patching as quietly as I can, patching up all this stuff, and what came out was the lullaby for the Hearts of Space music.
Just serendipitously, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was kind of funny too, because I'd gotten all this stuff going, and then I was going to play soprano sax over it, and I picked up my soprano sax, and I turned around by the microphone, and it jumped because there were about 20 people with their noses pressed up against the control room window watching. All these people had come in to the room Stephen was in and were standing in front of the window staring at me, and I was in my own little zone here, and I turned around like, whoa.
Yeah. Kevin, how many instruments do you play?
A bunch.
More than two?
Yes.
More than
Many
10?
more than two. I play most of the woodwinds, saxophones, flutes, clarinets. I used to play oboe. I can't say I play oboe anymore. I certainly remember all the fingerings, but any oboists out there know that it's all about embouchure and reeds.
Yes.
And if you do not keep those muscles together, it's just going to sound terrible. And keyboards and guitar and bass and whatever's around.
What was your first instrument that got you hooked to?
It was a piano. There was a piano in the house, and my sister was taking piano lessons. She was 5 years older than me, so she's 9 and I was 4. And my sister tells a story of her, agonizing over these lessons. And she said, and I would get up on the bench with my feet not touching anything and play her lesson perfectly. And she just, so that was that was really my first instrument. And then my brother John was a folk singer in the 50s. He was much older than me. So he was already out, this is back in the folk days. So he was hitchhiking with his guitar all over the country to the hot spots, Boston and Cambridge and Vancouver. And these were all sort of beatnik folk song high spots, as William probably knows.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was singing and writing music, and he would, stop in at home, and I would see this, his cases with stickers and stuff from various places, and he would pull out his guitar and play, and I was just, that was just the best thing. And so I, when I could find it, I mean, we never really had anything new. I mean, we had an old beat up piano, and we had anything that I got was usually old and beat up. And the first instrument I got, I was like maybe 10 or 12, was a saxophone, and I found out years later that it was a horrible piece of crap that got me into so many bad habits. I went in with, I went into college. It was my first lesson with a, private lesson. and I thought I was doing okay. And I'm sitting in this room with Jim was his name. He's a very, very large fellow in a little cinder block practice room, and he was taking up most of the room. But I'm sitting there, and he said, he puts out some music. He said, play this. So I'm going along playing it, and I remember him looking at me. He's like looking at me and then looking at this horn, and I see him, his eyebrows like furrow up as he's looking at this horn, and then he just goes like this.
Oh my goodness.
He just held his nose, and then I just kind of tapered off and stopped, and he goes, I don't ever want to see that horn in here again. Here, use mine. And he handed me his Selmer, and it was like, oh. I thought, oh my God. So it took me months to, I still didn't get a new, I wound up getting a baritone saxophone, which I absolutely adored. But having not a great horn, I had to relearn how to play it almost.
So we need a horn lesson. You mentioned, what was that called? Selmer? Is that what you said? The horn? That he said, play this one?
Yeah, to
was
play his saxophone. He was sitting there with I had an alto and he had an alto, and he handed me a Selmer, a Selmer is like the gold standard of saxophones historically. I mean, there are other really good horns too, but that was a good Selmer Mark VI, and he handed that to me, and I just went, oh my God. All the technique that I had developed were compensating for, poor mechanics on this old beat-up horn. Because that's part of my history. One of the reasons that I build things is because I didn't have things. I didn't get new stuff. I mean, I knew kids whose parents would get them amps and guitars and stuff, but I would have to find something and fix it up and build it and try to restore it from just junk. And so it actually got me into the kind of creative stuff. That's why I became a studio engineer. I could fix everything in the studio, and I could just build things and build electronics and all that sort of stuff. So it served me well, in later life.
So where do you notice that spilling over into other areas of your life? Where you can fix things, and you know what I'm saying? Where does that spill over?
Oh, well, I'm the guy who fixes everything on this property.
Oh, yeah?
Got to fix the dishwasher, got to fix the, whatever it is. And so there's just a certain mechanical understanding that I have. I work on our cars, at least I used to. I have some shoulder situations that don't allow me to climb underneath cars at the moment. So,
are you feeling better, Kevin? Are you feeling better?
Pardon me?
Are you feeling better? Are you feeling better?
Yeah, today's a good day.
Nice. Do you have
the now is good. That's all I'm going to say.
Did you do any special music for yourself for healing?
No, I mean, but what's interesting is that I was in the studio the other day, and I just was doing something else, and I've got on my studio computer, I've got an iTunes playlist, but it's all my music. Because sometimes I would do a mix and I would put it over there, and I want to come back without having to set everything up, so I just listen to the pieces on iTunes. So I just let the channel music, the 3 albums, just play as I'm doing stuff, and it was I got something from it.
Yeah.
It was really, because I don't listen to that stuff, usually, but just hearing it go, it's like, wow, because I don't remember recording any of it, which is really nice, but it's the energetic, vibrational quality of it that is really what that's about.
Yes,
it's not about the composition so much as it is, just there's a real communication and connection and vibration.
It's about the interplay, huh?
Yeah.
And as a fixer, Kevin has, and he doesn't brag about it, but he has taken the music that very well-known people have created and gone in studio with them and fixed it to a greater, clearer level. It's amazing.
Well, that's an engineer, a mixing engineer. That's what mixing engineers do. So I became involved with that on a professional level, and it's just trusting one's ears and knowing when I reach for something, what it's going to do and what something needs. So that's
a lot of famous
something
people,
that certainly serves me well.
A lot of famous people depended on you, and that's why people have trusted you over the centuries.
I love that. Over the centuries.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Happy 79, 69 centuries. I mean, that would be interesting to do a whole vibe on laughing, like joy and laughter, and then putting that all together. That would be very interesting to play back, wouldn't it? It'd be kind of fun. A room full of it. Mm-hmm.
There's a entertainer in Japan who does a workshop in different kinds of laughter for healing.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
There is even a club up here called the Happy Bluebird Club, and it was all about just like laughter. So you'd have to get together and say jokes, and it was just about fun and joy. But that was the whole purpose of it. Like some people didn't know how to laugh. Wow.
Truth.
That's scary.
That's
huh?
medicine. That's the
Isn't
medicine
it?
we need.
Isn't it? Yeah, the crazier the better sometimes. Like our own personal stories.
Oh, yeah.
When we look back on them later, like you were talking about how the energy's always there. And so the lens, you, shift. So the reflection's different. And sometimes it's quite amusing. Like, oh, glad I'm not there now.
Yes.
Should we
Is
do
there, go ahead.
Should we do a little commercial real quick?
Go ahead.
Because we have a couple things coming up. I think Chris will put the Alliance email, or not email, but the website up there, the www.universallifealliance.org. And go check out, under William's blog, you can check out Kevin's bio, and you can also click down to a couple of links to directly to his website, and you can check out a lot of his different music. You can buy different snippets of the music as well as whole CDs and that. I've been on the site a couple times. So do check that out, please. Kevin's an amazing, I'll say young man. He's an amazing young man. Half a century, a little over a century, or less than a century. What else we got going on?
And two of Kevin's companions, they own a piece of a big mountain in California. And they all live up there, and they grow things, and it's an amazing piece of property.
And they have big trees following them, too. Did you get that tree off of your property, or off your steps or your porch? It was kind of crazy.
I was
looking.
up limbing it. We still have to do the major trunk of it.
Okay. You're going to have some firewood, huh?
Yeah, next year.
Next year.
Or the year after.
Oh, 'cause
but
it's
yeah,
kind of,
there's a good...
It's wet, huh? It's wet now.
Well, you have to. It's an oak tree, which is what you want to burn in a fireplace, and with firewood, the longer you age it, the better. So you don't burn it the first year you cut it because it's too. I want to say green, but you want to wait till it really dries out. So that means that you split it and leave it for a year or two, and then it's seasoned, as they call it, for burning.
Just like doing your deck. Georgia did some slats in our deck with new wood, and then he was going to paint over it, and the guy that kind of works around the property a lot said, no, let that dry out.
Absolutely.
It'll stick better. And Georgia's like, oh, I'm saved. Yeah. One more thing. We have an event coming up tomorrow at one of our friends, Anita Burton. We're having our Thursday monthly gathering, and you're going to talk about some cool things there tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to talk about laughter, joy, taking your gifts, and you all are gifted, and discovering them and embracing them. And it doesn't take you away from your work, your family responsibilities. It just makes your life better.
Just allowing more of you to shine.
Let your light shine. Remember the old story, Kevin, about the lady in England whose daughter said she was cracked? And she said, a little cracked lets in a lot of light.
Yeah.
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 Are there any other cool little pieces of, your instrument's not little behind there. Are there any other little tidbits that you want to show us that won't take your pretty face off and won't take you too far
let's
away?
see if I can reach it.
I've never been in a studio of this caliber before. I have no idea
Let's
what goes
see.
on behind the scenes. Ooh,
Can you see this?
we can see that. What is that?
This is, it's called the EWI, the electronic woodwind instrument. It was
Really?
designed by my friend Niall Steiner, who had a
Cool.
company called Steiner Parker Instruments.
Oh,
And it's played just like a woodwind instrument, but it's controlled. It has a cable that goes into, I don't think you can see it, but it's a little synthesizer that I built into a camera case. And so
that's cool.
a lot of the music that the channel music has, features this instrument. A lot of the music that I've done has that instrument on. It's a very expressive instrument. It's controlled with the breath and played just like a woodwind instrument. So it was the perfect instrument for me. Being a guy who's into synthesizers and building and all that stuff, and then getting a woodwind instrument in my hand was the perfect kind of...
I see some lights flickering behind you too. It's kind of magical. What's going on?
Yeah.
What's that?
It's doing stuff. It's busy. I've got to patch up for something.
It looks almost like you're preparing for Halloween. Get some webbing over that. I love it.
I don't know if it's...
Oh, he's making sounds for us. Oh, that is so cool.
Isn't it?
So that's what it's doing at the moment.
That's
Setting
really
that up for
fascinating.
something. Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
find? Oh, I was like, you must find sometimes you have to just like come knock on the studio door after 10 hours, so I come out. Do you know what I mean? Do you just get locked in there and just into your own thing, and forget to come out?
That's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the good days, huh? Being in the zone like that.
Yeah, being in the zone. Usually I need a deadline to be in the zone.
Oh yeah, like okay, you've got to produce. A lot of us work under pressure.
Yeah. Well, that's I have an ADD mind, so I have to have certain structures to enable me to follow through on stuff without getting waylaid or distracted or something like that, because my brain is so active and has so many interests, and I can hyper focus on something, and once the energy runs out on something, I shouldn't be there anyway.
It's
because
true.
it's diminishing returns at that point, so I need to go do something else, and then I do something else after that, and then it's, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing music.
But then when you come
But I
full
come
circle,
back fresher usually.
Yeah.
No, I have to interrupt
Yeah.
you both. People listening and watching, take advantage of this opportunity to work with one of the most brilliant people on our planet in the musical industry. He can be of great service to you. As Renata said earlier, check the websites and see what's available. You can build your own life into a more clear, honorable relationship.
And the fact that you're so willing to come on the show and share with us just a little bit about, well, waiting for the wood till it's dried out before you chop it is a good thing, and oak is what you really want to burn. And then, even though you were raised in a musical family or your brothers and sisters are that way, you can make your way and find what it is that really stimulates you. You've done that since you were 4. And so you're like a testament to just being who you are, and then trusting that your evolutionary process, and then opening up to the things that are shown to you, and then integrating them. I mean, that's kind of what you do as an engineer. It's pretty cool. Thank you for sharing. Really.
Yeah, you're welcome. And yeah, check out the website and look up channeled music, and it has a lot of information, more information than I talked about today, about how it's done and what happens and things like that. So, and I enjoy doing this. They're
Yes,
really
Kevin is
interesting.
a walking resource, a living resource. So I'm delighted that he's been my friend for 100 years, and that he can be added to your list of resources.
And Kevin actually is on our board for Tula, so
Oh, yes.
see, you kind of get to hang out with some interesting people once you become a member of Tula. So do go to the universallifealliance.org And there is no real fee for you to become a member, but there is a huge, deep commitment to your own personal evolution. So that's really what that's
Hallelujah.
about.
Yes.
I know. What else we got?
Well, I think that we've covered everything, and we're just about ready to end the day, but Renato and I typically do a big hug at the end.
We do. We can do a group hug.
And I was going to say, how can we do an obvious group hug with Kevin?
There he is. I got him.
Oh, okay.
I got him right. Oh, see? Look how that worked. He reached right around.
There is no time and there is no space.
I know. And let's just spread the laughter.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin.
Auf Wiedersehen, Kevin. We'll see you later. Happy birthday
Okay.
again.
Thank you, and I'm happy to come back anytime. We can
We'll
talk
definitely
about
have
all
you back.
kinds of stuff. All
Super,
right.
super.
Thank you very much. Blessings to all.
Thank you.
That was just really wonderful.
Well.